Hi everyone, my name is Tracey and I am Director of Education for earthday.org. Today we're going to be talking about climate literacy for climate action. First, I just wanted to do a brief introduction to myself and my work with earthday.org. I've been in the field of environmental education for over 15 years now, working with different audiences across the United States and hoping to inspire action for taking care of the environment, protecting wildlife and natural resources, and seeing how we can all make a difference in it. I got my PhD from the University of Florida, where I studied climate change education and how we can utilize systems thinking to critically analyze environmental issues such as climate change and how we can better break down academic disciplines to talk about the real impacts of environmental issues on a whole system scale. So I wanted to start off with a brief history of Earth Day and where it all began and how we got to where we are today. So the idea from Earth Day came from Senator Nelson from Wisconsin, and he was really inspired by the anti-war and civil rights movement happening in the United States in the late 1960s, and also this pervasive problem of environmental issues that were really in your face, visible, and across the country. These included things like the Santa Barbara oil spill in California. The Cuyahoga River in Ohio was so contaminated, it was regularly catching on fire. There was issues of smog in urban cities across the world. And we knew from Rachel Carson's Silent Spring book that bird populations were rapidly decreasing. So these were issues that were very visible. There was major issues with pollution and litter, and people were fed up and they really wanted to take action. And so Senator Nelson wanted to inspire people to take that passion and make change. And he knew that the best way to do that was through students. He actually hired a group of college-age students, and you here on the screen, Dennis Hayes is the one down in the corner on the phone. Dennis Hayes was one of his main college organizers who, through the power of motivation and inspiration, gathered 20 million Americans to come out onto the streets in their local communities to demand change for the environment. And they called the first Earth Day an environmental teach-in. And we'll get into what a teach-in is later in the presentation. But it was really amazing that before the internet, before social media, just the idea of everyone coming together to protect the environment was enough to, again, bring out 20 million people out onto the streets to have marches and rallies and protests and festivals to say, now is the time, we have to take action. And something that's hard to imagine back in early 1970 and April of 1970 when the first Earth Day took place, the EPA did not exist yet. And so that was actually one of the main outcomes of the first Earth Day, is that the formation of the Environmental Protection Agency here in the United States to make change, have regulations, and to hold people accountable for the environmental destruction that was happening. And from there, we saw landmark legislation like the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, and the Endangered Species Act that help people be accountable for protecting our environment. So earthday.org has been around as nearly as long as the first Earth Day in different iterations. And today we are a global network of partners, resources, NGOs, and supporters across the world. Our research shows that Earth Day is acknowledged in about 190 countries around the world. That's nearly the entire world coming together to stand up for the environment each year. About 1 billion people participate in Earth Day events every year. And that's just amazing. It is an idea and a day that everybody can get behind. But one thing we want to make sure from this presentation that you walk away with is that Earth Day is not just one day. There's that ever so common phrase of Earth Day is every day. Obviously working at earthday.org, I truly believe that. And that there's just so much we can do year round, and that perhaps April 23rd is just as important as April 22nd in thinking about the environment and taking action for the environment. So here at earthday.org, in the education department where I work, we are always creating resources to help students, educators, parents, families, and communities come together and have everything that they need to take action, to learn more about the environment, and to spread that information to more individuals. One way we do that is through Earth Day schools. So you can see our growing map here. We have over 5,000 schools registered across the world. And this is just another network of joining together the support and for educators to realize they're not alone. We see that so many times that there's that one star teacher that has this as a passion project and runs the after school club or makes sure it's involved in their curriculum. But we need every teacher to be that one-star teacher. And so this network is really meant to join educators together so they know that they're not alone in this battle. We also have tons and tons of resources to help you with your Earth Day plans. And again, bringing in the climate and environmental systems into everything that you do and in every discipline that you interact with. So we have toolkits, resources, lesson plans, activities. And one of the things that we just launched a few weeks ago that we're really excited about are these advocacy packets that you can see at the bottom of the screen. Advocacy packets are written by students for students. The most common question we get is, what can I do? How can I make a difference? I'm only 16. What can I do in my community? And I want to make sure that every student, no matter what your age is, you feel that you have a voice and that there's actions that you can take to make a difference, no matter what your age. And we have resources to help you do that, especially these advocacy packets. So if you want to learn about making sure composting can be in your school or in your community or at your institution of faith, we can help you do that. Or if you want to have making sure that there's a sustainability representative on your sports team or in your social clubs. We have resources to help you do that. We also have tons of resources on timelines of environmental history. Again, we're going to talk more about teach-ins later. If you want to know about having pollinator gardens in your home or your community, again, tons of resources. So check out our education resource library on our website. And the great thing is our website is our name, earthday.org. You can find all that information there. Something else I'll say is that our theme for 2021 is Restore Our Earth. And this can be a very all-encompassing theme where we can talk about lots of different aspects of what we can do as individuals, as families, and as communities to take care of our planet. We've learned a lot over the past year during the pandemic of behavior change is hard, but turns out it's not so hard. And the drastic changes we've seen and the things we've had to do can really help our planet. So how can we learn from the past year and taking these actions to sustain them long term to see how we can protect the environment? Another thing I wanted to share during this presentation is talking about our climate literacy campaign. This is a very large campaign that we started in September of 2020 that has lots of parts. We want to make sure that, as always, we are working from the bottom up and supporting grassroots efforts for, again, teachers, educators, non-formal education institutions, NGOs around the world, anyone who's working at the ground level to make sure that this kind of education happens for our students. But we also want to make sure that we're holding leaders accountable, and we're talking with different national entities that they're going to commit to climate and environmental education at a national level through a series of global meetings and leaders coming together to talk about their climate commitments through the Paris Agreement. And what we want to make sure that they are asking for and that they're making plans for is that every school in the world has compulsory and assessed climate and environmental education in their curriculum, and that curriculum also has a strong civics component. And just to unpack that a little bit, when we say compulsory, we're not advocating for a certain kind of curriculum or a certain standards that could be reached, but we say compulsory to say we want every single student to have equal access to this kind of education. And that we also want it not just throughout the science courses, but embedded across the disciplines and across the grade levels. So we are constantly learning and reinforcing this information, and starting with age-appropriate information in our early childhood education that gets students excited about the environment, that build that connection to nature, and that we progress over the school ages to make sure that we're increasing in complexity and really helping students understand all the complex nuances about the environment and how they connect to not just the environmental and ecological and climate systems, but to our social systems, our economic systems as well. And when we say assessed, we're not, I promise, not advocating test for students, but we want to make sure that it's making a difference and that there's good change happening. We want to make sure that teachers have the support that they need. So we, through a series of different kinds of assessment that could include portfolios or projects or different tangible outcomes, we just want to make sure that this kind of learning is helping students and that teachers are supported in that kind of learning. And again, that civic engagement component is really important, that we want to make sure in addition to the content knowledge that students need to understand the environment and how they play a role in the environment, that we're pairing that with real practical application of the information and how to be change agents in their community. We want to make sure that everybody knows what their role is, how their voice can be heard, and how they can take action in a meaningful way. So the other piece to pair with this is that some of this information is overwhelming. It's the climate system and climate change, the climate crisis overall it's big and it's not always good news, but there's things that we can do. And through civic engagement and taking action and seeing who's already taking action and knowing that there's still things that we can do and knowing that there's still time, that brings in that hope element. When we make sure we're adding more climate and environmental education to the curriculum and to our learning, we don't want to scare anyone and we don't want to overwhelm anyone. We want to balance that with hope and motivation and ways to take action. So those are the main pillars of our climate and environmental literacy campaign. And some of you might be asking, well, what is climate literacy? I've heard of literacy as far as I need to be able to read and write, or sometimes we even talk about financial literacy, so people know how to manage their income and be sustainable with their funds. And there's a discipline of climate literacy as well. And climate literacy, it's not you're climate literate or you're not. There's definitely a spectrum and a progression over time to become more climate literate. And again, this is where we want to see this kind of information built into the curriculum, starting at early childhood and going through higher education. So this is not just, one environmental science elective in high school. This is across all the pieces to see how we can really understand the environment, how we impact the environment, and how the environment impacts us. And it's really meant to make sure that we are considering the environment and the climate systems as we make everyday decisions, as we make purchasing decisions, as we make decisions about how we move across our community through transportation. Again, every aspect to what we eat. Climate literacy is just that idea of taking that extra moment to consider the options, see what the trade-offs are of our different decisions and what the long-term impacts of our decisions might be. So it's really meant to showcase a critical systems thinker who considers all aspects of our decisions and our behaviors to better understand how we impact the environment. And so there's different ways that we can all build our climate literacy and take action for the environment. Again, we're going to talk more about teach-ins in just a second. We also have an opportunity to engage in citizen science, which I'll tell you more about through a citizen science app on your phone called Global Earth Challenge. And then there's everyday actions that we can do, again, like adjusting your diet, thinking about your food systems, thinking about your waste systems. Everything that you consume, where does it come from and where does it go? So again, understanding those systems that exist in our communities, seeing how we can be supportive of those systems and not have negative impacts on that system. And then talking to others, that's the easiest thing that we can do, right? So having classes like this where we talk about these issues, talking with your family, talking on social media, engaging in school. There's so many opportunities to talk about climate literacy more, talk about climate change, what our feelings are about it, what our knowledge landscape is, and how we can grow that. So finally, I've been teasing this for a little while now, but what is a teach-in? So I told you that the first Earth Day in 1970 was called an environmental teach-in. And the teach-in is this idea that a community comes together about any issue and talks about their experiences, their feelings, what they are going through, what might the problems be. But a teach-in is also very solutions oriented. The whole point of a teach-in is that the group that's gathered leaves the teach-in knowing exactly what they're going to do to take action on this issue. And so when you have an environmental teach-in, you're talking about some kind of local environmental issue that is impacting your community and something that you want to make change on. It's really important that a teach-in brings in diverse community members or stakeholders or content experts into the conversation, but we also want to make sure that everyone has an equal voice at this conversation and that it's a two-way dialogue. a teach-in is not meant to be a lecture, unfortunately, kind of like what I'm doing today. A teach-in should really be a conversation where it's not just presenting information to people, but it's a group having a discussion about this is the issue, this is what we're experiencing, and here are ideas to take action to alleviate that issue. Um, Again, solutions oriented, talking about action, what we're going to do together. So you may bring in a scientific expert that knows about the environmental issue, or a government official that has some kind of authority or power to make change, but making sure that diverse community members are represented too, of knowing how it's impacting them, and also making sure that their voices are heard when solutions are being proposed, so it doesn't disproportionately impact any member of the community. So a teach-in is a great way to have those conversations, to bring up these topics in school, in your community, in your family, whatever setting you're comfortable in. And some of the really cool things that have been happening with the online learning and kind of this transition to virtual events just like this one is that a teach-in can really be more inclusive now. So typically a teach-in was held in person, and so people had to drive there or get there in some way, and it was fairly limited of who could participate in that teach-in. With Zoom and other online platforms, anyone can participate in a teach-in. You could bring in content experts from across the world. You can bring in community members. You can expand the definition of what a community member is and someone who wants to speak on this issue. So it's kind of been an exciting transition to see how teach-ins have evolved to be more inclusive, to be more opening to different ideas, and how we can work together on some of these issues. So if you've never hosted a teach-in or you're not quite sure where to start, we have tons of resources to help make sure that your teach-in is successful. So we have a whole teach-in toolkit on our website that teaches you, again, what is a teach-in, how to host a teach-in, how to coordinate it, who should be there. If it's your first time hosting a virtual event, we talk about how to host a virtual teach-in. And then the other resource we have are called grab bags. So the grab bags are meant to be really easy 1 to 2 pagers about different content to host a teach-in about. So when we were first talking about teach-ins over the past couple of years and trying to make sure that they were happening in schools, people understood the concept, but they just didn't know where to start. And so the grab bags are really meant to be an easy hand-holding resource that tells you, here's an issue that might be of interest to your community. Here is why it's important. Here are some sample speakers. Here are some sample calls to action, and to kind of just get the wheels turning and those creative juices flowing that you can host your own teach-in. And this was just the starting point. So be sure to check out our teach-in toolkit on our website, and then look at all the different content grab bags that you can find. Anything from food waste and food security, to plastic pollution, to insect biodiversity, to ocean acidification. We really have tons of topics that you can host a teach-in about in your community and see how you can make change. The other resource I told you about is our Global Earth Challenge, which is a citizen science app that you can get on your smartphone. It's available for both Apple and Android, so you can find it on any device. And the great thing about Global Earth Challenge is that we have several different content areas where you can help collect data that is going to be used by real scientists in the world trying to understand more about these research topics. And then we also add another element to the citizen science where it's not just come collect data and that's it. We want to make sure that you understand the data. What are you finding out about your community? And then again, how do you make change? We always want to make sure that we're providing opportunities for you to make change and be active in your community. So if you're collecting data about air quality, or bees that are in your nearby area, or plastic pollution that you're seeing on the street, sometimes that can be very frustrating to get that data, to learn more and not be thrilled with the results, to be honest. And so we want to make sure that if you're not liking what you're finding about your community and the environmental status of your community, we're giving you options to take action. And so again, that civic engagement component of, I can be an active part in my community to make change for good, and we can help you do that. So citizen science is so important. There's a ton of projects out there if you're looking for other topics to explore, but helping to add to the wealth of data that is understood about our environment and what we can do is so, so important. So check out Global Earth Challenge in your app store and download it for your phone, and then go out and explore all the different things, again, from air quality, biodiversity, pollinators in your area, plastic pollution that you're seeing in your community, and looking at different food supply areas and crop pictures to understand where different crops are grown across the world. And of course, we have tons of other opportunities to get involved on Earth Day, around Earth Day, in the month of April, and all year long. So one, again, it's going back to our climate literacy campaign, is the more we can talk about climate literacy and how much we need it, and how important it is, and how we can get it in our schools more in a more prevalent way, the better we're all going to be. So there's opportunities to support legislation at the local, state, and federal level. There's opportunities to contact your local school board and say, hey, what are you all doing about this? How can we make this better? There's opportunities to, again, have those conversations, share on social media, tell people why it's important and why you support it. The more we talk about it, the more we're going to see it, and the more we're going to have it. Another opportunity and kind of the quintessential Earth Day event is the Great Global Cleanup. Cleanups do not need to only occur on Earth Day. We hope that they happen all year long, but it's a great way to see that visual impact of your actions and to make a difference in your community. So picking up litter is always a good thing to do. This has been a little tricky in the past year, especially last Earth Day when it was still, the pandemic was very new. We didn't know exactly how everything was going or exactly how the virus was transmitted and what was safe or not. So we really didn't have many cleanups last year. This year, we think that it is safe in certain communities to go out in either a small family pod or whoever is in your quarantine bubble and to pick up local trash. There's going to be some coordinated cleanup events where it's safe to do so, but also you don't need to be with a large group of people. You can just go up and down your streets, go to a local park, and pick up litter using proper equipment to make sure that you're being safe. We also have information about that on our website. So if you're looking to do your own personal cleanup or join a small cleanup, we have information about safety regulations and how to make it more safe. But again, connect back to that Global Earth Challenge Citizen Science app and report your data to the app so we know where you're finding plastic pollution, what kind of plastic pollution you're finding, and what we can do to address that root cause of that pollution. Another great way to get involved with Earth Day year-round and to help support the environment is through our Canopy Project campaign, where this is the idea of making sure that we are reforesting parts of the earth that have lost their canopy cover. We know all the benefits from having more trees in an area, from decreasing temperatures to increasing oxygen that we breathe to having better shade. Even just having the view helps improve mental health. So there's so many benefits of having more tree coverage and just more greenery in our communities. So the Canopy campaign works through a donation where you donate $1 to earthday.org, and that equates to a tree being planted somewhere in the world. So you can check out more information on our website about the Canopy Project. And again, volunteering in any way is a great way to get involved and enhance your climate literacy by learning more about your community, learning more about the environmental issues impacting your community, and how you can make a difference. And then if you're watching this on or around Earth Day, April 22nd in 2021, we hope that you'll join us for our special events on Earth Day. We'll be having live streamed events across April 20th through the 22nd, and tons of content on our website and social media. We'll have speakers and performers and lots of events taking place on Earth Day itself. So we hope you'll stay tuned to our website and check out that event if you haven't, if the timing's right for you. Other than that, I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in to this session today. I hope you've learned a little bit about the importance of climate literacy, what we can all do to make sure it's more prevalent in our schools, in our community, how you can take action on and around Earth Day. And then again, Earth Day is every day, so don't feel that you can only take action on April 22nd. We hope that you'll be taking action all year long. Here's my contact information. If you have any questions about any of our resources or anything that I mentioned today, I'd be happy to work with any of you in your groups and your schools to make sure that you have the resources that you need. Again, we're really prevalent on social media, and our website is an all one-stop shop for all the content and resources that I talked about today. If you're an educator or a teacher or a parent and want to stay connected to our Earth Day schools or our educator network, we have a specific newsletter, a News Bites resource that goes out that has tons of resources and ideas and stories about climate literacy in schools and how we can do more and do better. And And again, our education resource library has all of the resources I mentioned today to help improve your lesson plans and your ideas and how you can bring climate literacy into your everyday life. So thank you so much for tuning in today. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. And thank you so much and happy Earth Day, happy every day.